Welcome to Skinner and Chalmers' Weekly Roast. Today, Dorothy's Magical Melt, the magical pop culture properties of leftover pasta water.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to this week's edition of Skinner and Chalmers' Weekly Roast. As always, I'm Superintendent Chalmers, and by my side is my lovely friend, Principal Seymour Skinner.
Hello there, and welcome back to Skinner and Chalmers' Weekly Roast. Today's episode is going to be a real treat. We're diving into one of the most absurd claims I've ever heard. Or should I say, cooked up?
Yes, and what's that supposed to be, Seymour?
Well, listeners, Chalmers once told me that Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz melted the Wicked Witch using his leftover pasta water.
Oh boy, where did you hear this? You know I'm a man of many talents, but cooking isn't one of them.
That's what makes it so intriguing. You're also sometimes experimenting with new recipes at our dinner parties, like a recipe for vegan hamburgers. Maybe there's more to your culinary skills than meets the eye?
Seymour, I have about as much talent for cooking as I do for tarmacking roads. None at all. Or designing islands in Animal Crossing. For me, everything is pragmatic.
Come on, Chalmers. You must have some insight. What's going on here? Did you and Dorothy have a secret pasta party?
Oh no, nothing that exciting, I assure you. But I do recall discussing The Wizard of Oz with someone who claimed to have an interesting perspective on the Wicked Witch.
Who was this mysterious individual? A fellow philosopher, perhaps?
Now that you mention it, a colleague from my university days. We were debating the power of storytelling and its impact on our perception of reality.
Now we're getting somewhere. So your leftover pasta water was somehow connected to this idea?
Let's just say it was a thought-provoking conversation. We explored how art can influence our understanding of the world and vice versa.
I'm guessing you came up with this. Creative solution? Dorothy using your pasta water to defeat the Wicked Witch?
Well, it was more a thought experiment than an actual claim, but it got us thinking about the boundaries between reality and fiction.
Boundaries? You mean like the lines we're always pushing on this show? The absurdity of life in Memifield with Sonic's constant speed, racing, Shadow's shadowy presence, Yugi's card games, and Master Chief's, well, being Master Chief.
Exactly! It's all about exploring the gray areas, and I think that conversation sparked something in me.
So you're saying your pasta water had some sort of mystical properties? Did you try it out all on Cosmo or one of our other pets in this lovely household?
Seymour, no. Although I do know a few of your golems that might appreciate an impromptu spa day. But seriously, the idea was meant to illustrate how our imaginations can shape our understanding.
Shape it? You think your leftover pasta water could melt a witch?
But what if I told you that sometimes the most unlikely things can have unexpected consequences? Like when your cooking experiments go awry and turn into, well, interesting stories?
Oh, I see where this is going.
You're saying my burnt dishes are a form of performance art?
Maybe not exactly, but your creative excuses for those culinary disasters have become the stuff of legend in our neighborhood.
Hey, those were one-time mistakes. And Cosmo loves his special burnt offerings.
Yes, and I'm sure Alligator Snapping enjoys the occasional charred snack as well.
All right. So let's get back to this mysterious conversation with your colleague. What did you discuss about Dorothy with this university lecturer?
We talked about how her journey in Oz symbolized the struggle between good and evil. And I wondered aloud if there was a connection between the witch's demise, or rather melting, and our own perceptions of reality.
Sounds like a really exciting thought. I can already see your entire conversation in front of my eye, how you philosophized about the story. Picture this. A dark and stormy afternoon. The rain was pouring down and the streets were deserted. In the midst of this, our dear Superintendent Chalmers was in his kitchen, whipping up a batch of his famous pasta.
Famous, huh? More like infamous. My cooking skills are legendary for all the wrong reasons.
Oh, come on, Chalmers. Don't be so modest. Anyway, As Chalmers was draining his pasta, he had a sudden realization: the starchy, murky water left behind in the pot. It was no ordinary pasta water. It had a mysterious, almost magical quality to it.
Seymour, are you sure you're not confusing my pasta water with some kind of magical potion? I mean, it's just water and starch.
That's what you want us to believe. But little did you know, Chalmers, that this pasta water had the potential to change the course of history.
Oh boy, here we go.
Fast forward a few days, Chalmers is invited to a dinner party at Professor Puzzlesworth's house, a renowned philosopher with an affinity for pop culture and culinary experiments.
Ah, yes. Good old Professor Puzzlesworth. Always had a knack for blending the mundane with the extraordinary.
At this dinner party, the conversation naturally drifted to the Wizard of Oz. Puzzlesworth posed a hypothetical question. What if Dorothy didn't melt the Wicked Witch with plain old water, but with something far more exotic and intriguing, like Chalmers' leftover pasta water?
I remember that. It was one of those what-if moments that spiraled out of control.
Exactly. And so, the legend of Chalmers' pasta water was born. Now, let's dive deeper into the story, shall we?
Absolutely. Let's unravel this culinary conundrum.
Our story begins in the magical land of Oz, where Dorothy and her companions are on their quest to defeat the Wicked Witch of the West. After numerous trials and tribulations, they finally reach the witch's castle. But instead of a bucket of water, Dorothy finds a pot of Chalmers' leftover pasta water.
Oh, this is getting good.
Dorothy, being resourceful and ever curious, decides to use the pasta water against the witch. Little does she know, this seemingly ordinary liquid is imbued with mystical properties. As she throws the pasta water onto the witch, a miraculous transformation begins.
And what happens next, Seymour?
The Wicked Witch starts to sizzle and steam, her green skin bubbling and boiling. But instead of a gruesome demise, the witch begins to cook.
Cook? You mean like a pasta dish?
Exactly. The witch's skin turns a delightful al-dente texture, and a rich, savory aroma fills the air. Dorothy, Toto, and the rest of the gang watch in astonishment as the witch transforms into a perfectly cooked, delectable dish.
Oh boy, that's quite the twist. So, Dorothy essentially turns the witch into a gourmet meal?
Precisely. And as the witch finishes her transformation, she lets out a final melodious sigh. "You've bested me, Dorothy," she says, with the power of Chalmers' pasta water. "Who knew my end would be so delicious?"
And what do Dorothy and her friends do next?
Well, they do what any reasonable group of adventurers would do. They sit down for a celebratory feast. The witch, turned pasta dish, becomes the highlight of the evening, and Dorothy earns the title of Master Chef of Oz.
That's quite the culinary adventure, although I feel very uncomfortable with the idea that the audience will then be plagued with the idea that the origin of the dish is human. Isn't that going too far somewhere?
I see your concern, and we don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable. We could add a segment where, before eating, the pasta dish is sent to a laboratory where it is examined for human DNA remains. The lab then confirms in the story that the gourmet dish no longer creates any connections with a human, so everything is fine. It's just a pasta dish.
Well, I'm reassured. And what about the morale of the story?
The moral. You see, Chalmers, it's all about the unexpected consequences of our actions and the magic hidden in the mundane. Even something as simple as leftover pasta water can have extraordinary effects if we only use our imagination.
I like that. It reminds us that there's potential and wonder in even the most ordinary things.
Exactly. And it just goes to show that a little creativity and a dash of humor can turn any situation into a memorable story.
Well, Seymour, you've certainly outdone yourself with this one. I never thought my leftover pasta water could be the stuff of legends.
That's the magic of storytelling, Chalmers. Now let's dive deeper into the mechanics of how this pasta water transformation could actually work.
Oh, this should be good. Hit me with the science and the absurdity.
All right, folks, imagine the starchy pasta water as a catalyst for a powerful chemical reaction. The starch molecules interact with the witch's magical essence, causing a rapid denaturation of her evil proteins. This process not only neutralizes her wickedness, but also tenderizes her evilness to a perfect culinary consistency.
So it's like a magical marinade that transforms hydrocarbon atoms into the molecular structure of a noodle through reorganization.
Exactly. The heat generated from the chemical reaction caramelizes the noodle outer layer, giving her a golden brown crust. Inside, the starches work their magic, turning her hate and frustration into a creamy, luscious filling.
And what about the aroma? You mentioned a rich, savory aroma.
Ah, yes. As the transformation progresses, the magical properties of the pasta water enhance the natural flavors of the wickedness. The scent is a tantalizing blend of herbs, spices, and a hint of smokiness, the kind that makes your mouth water and your stomach growl.
I have to admit, Seymour, this is making me hungry. But I still feel a bit uncomfortable that the witch turns into food that people eat, even with proof that there is no connection to her anymore.
Well, Chalmers, that's the beauty of it. The Wicked Witch's defeat becomes not just a victory for good, but also a culinary delight.
You know, this actually ties into something we discussed earlier, the idea that our creations can transcend their intended purpose. In this case, a simple pot of pasta water becomes a powerful weapon and a gourmet meal.
Exactly. And it just goes to show how our imagination can shape reality in unexpected ways. Who would have thought that your leftover pasta water could save the day in such a delicious fashion?
Only in the magical land of Oz, my friend. Only in Oz.
And so, Dorothy and her friends enjoyed their feast, celebrating their victory and the magic of Chalmers' pasta water. The legend of the witch's culinary transformation spread far and wide, becoming a beloved tale in the annals of Oz history.
Well, Seymour, I think we've outdone ourselves with this one. It's a story that combines adventure, humor, and a touch of culinary magic.
Absolutely, Chalmers. And it just goes to show that even the most mundane things can become extraordinary with a little imagination and a lot of humor.
Well said, Seymour. Well said. And now let's take a moment to hear from our listeners. What do you think of the idea that leftover pasta water could have magical properties? Have you ever had an experience where something ordinary turned out to be extraordinary? Share your stories with us in the comments if you'd like to.
That's a great idea, Chalmers. And now, to wrap it up, the Wicked Witch serves as a metaphor for the chaos that is Memophile. Sonic speeding by, shadow lurking in the shadows.
Exactly. It was an exercise in creative thinking. And who knows? Maybe our own imagination can be harnessed to shape reality.
So, Chalmers, your pasta water has indeed some magical properties.
Not literally, but think about it. Food is a universal language that brings people together. Maybe our creations can have an impact on the world around us.
And what better way to test this theory than with some unconventional cooking? Chalmers, are you willing to get your hands dirty?
Seymour, I think we'll stick to our usual podcast format. No kitchen experiments from me.
Ah, come on! It'd make for a great segment. Chalmers' culinary chaos.
Another time, perhaps.
So, did you ever get a follow-up on this thought? Provoking idea? Did your university colleague write anything about it?
Now that I think back, there was an article. Let me see if I can find the reference. Chalmers pulls out his phone and searches for the article. I don't know why I say that loud.
Ah, this is going to be good. What did you find?
In a world where stories shape our reality, we must consider the power of leftover pasta water.
This is getting wild. You haven't even started an article indirectly. Chalmers, are you suggesting that your ordinary everyday actions can have extraordinary consequences?
Maybe. Seymour, sometimes I think our creations, whether it's a dish or a story, can transcend their intended purpose.
Oh, so the Wicked Witch was essentially melted by your leftover pasta water as a symbol of how art can influence reality?
That's one way to look at it. The power of leftover pasta water can manifest in unexpected ways.
So we've explored the mystical properties of pasta water and the power of storytelling. What's next? Can you tell me more about this university colleague who started it all?
Ah, yes. His name is Professor Puzzlesworth, a renowned philosopher with an affinity for pop culture.
Professor Puzzlesworth? I've heard of him. He's written extensively on the boundaries between reality and fiction. Will he ever publish another article about this topic?
As a matter of fact, his next book is titled Pasta Water and the Fabric of Reality.
I need to get my hands on that.
What's it about? Is there any more to your story with Professor Puzzlesworth?
We met at a conference discussing the intersection of art and philosophy. He shared his theories on how our imagination can influence reality.
And you took that as inspiration for your claim about Dorothy melting the witch?
Well, it was more an exercise in creative thinking than a serious theory. But I do remember him saying something along the lines of the power lies not in the pasta water, but in our perception.
Is this perhaps also a secret allusion to pop culture and our perception of the world, influenced by it?
Ah, yes. Pop culture is indeed an intriguing subject matter for philosophical exploration. I like your thought. It's fascinating how stories in comic books or narratives from video games can spark a range of human emotions, often beyond what we experience in our day-to-day lives.
That's right. Pop culture allows us to explore different facets of the human condition, often presenting them in an accessible and entertaining way. It's like food for thought.
I see your point, Seymour. But what about its connection to philosophy? How does pop culture influence our understanding of reality?
Well, Chalmers, you've got to think about it from the perspective that these stories often present moral dilemmas and philosophical quandaries in a way that is more relatable than traditional texts.
True. The complexities of human emotions are portrayed vividly through characters' actions in popular culture narratives.
Exactly, Chalmers. Like the Matrix. What if reality is nothing more than a simulation?
Oh boy, that's deep. But you're right. Pop culture can indeed challenge conventional wisdom and force us to rethink some of our most basic assumptions about life.
And let's not forget the role of imagination in all this. The stories told through these mediums often engage with complex themes and ideas, encouraging viewers, listeners, readers to imagine different possibilities. What if we could live in a world where leftover pasta water was indeed magical?
Ah, yes. That old Chalmers chestnut again. Well, the idea that our imagination can be harnessed and directed towards influencing reality is certainly an intriguing one.
Absolutely. And who knows what kind of possibilities would open up for us if we could tap into this power. Maybe we'd finally figure out how to get Cosmo to behave himself.
Or perhaps the influence of pop culture on our collective imagination is already having an impact, shaping reality in ways that are only now beginning to reveal themselves.
That's definitely a possibility. I mean, look around, Memifield. We've got Sonic constantly breaking speed limits and Shadow lurking in his shadowy presence. Who knows what other changes have been wrought by our shared engagement with these pop culture narratives?
Indeed, Seymour. It seems the lines between reality and fiction are often blurred when we're immersed in a story, and pop culture is no exception.
So, Chalmers, what's your take on this? How does our engagement with popular culture narratives influence our understanding of the world around us?
Well, Seymour, it seems to me that these stories often present moral dilemmas and philosophical quandaries in a way that is more relatable than traditional texts. They challenge conventional wisdom and force us to rethink some of our most basic assumptions about life.
That's fascinating, Chalmers. And I guess it goes back to the power of storytelling. How narratives can shape our perception of reality, encouraging viewers, listeners, readers to imagine different possibilities.
Absolutely. It seems that pop culture is yet another tool for us to explore and understand this complex world we inhabit.
Looks like our podcast has found a new area of exploration. Let's get started on some more in-depth examinations of popular culture phenomena.
Oh boy, Seymour, do you realize what we're sitting on? A gold mine. We have a meme waiting to happen here. All thanks to my leftover pasta water.
You betcha, Chalmers. This is pure comedic gold. And it's about time Memafield had another internet sensation.
Well said, Seymour. Now let's brainstorm some hilarious ideas on how to create this meme.
Okay, so here goes. Chalmers Pasta Water Chronicles. A series of memes featuring me struggling with my pasta water concoction while you, Chalmers, stand smugly by the side.
Oh, I like that. Let's add a twist to it. How about we have an evil witch lurking in the background, trying to steal away our delicious creation?
And then there could be another set of memes where Cosmo, my orb pet, gets to indulge in this pasta delicacy and becomes uncontrollably happy.
Ah, yes. That's exactly the kind of humor I was hoping for. It seems like we're onto something here.
You know what would really make these memes fly? If they were somehow connected to a popular meme format. Maybe, just maybe, we could tap into that and create an internet sensation.
That's not a bad idea at all, Seymour. Let's try our hands at creating some viral-worthy pasta water magic.
All right then. Let's start brainstorming memes with Chalmers' leftover pasta water as the central theme. Who knows what kind of hilarious adventures await us in this new Memile land?
Seymour, I can't believe we're actually doing this.
That's the beauty of it, Chalmers. We're creating something entirely new here. And who knows what kind of internet sensation it might create.
You know what? I think we've got a real winner on our hands. The Pasta Water Chronicles could be the next big thing.
That's right, Chalmers. We're going to take Memafield by storm with this meme.
Oh boy, Seymour. Do you realize what we've got in our hands? A potential internet sensation. And all because of my leftover pasta water.
That's right, Chalmers. We're going to take Memafield by storm with this meme. Who knows where it might lead us? Maybe even history books.
Well said, Seymour. Now let's discuss how we can spread our new meme around the internet and make sure that everyone is talking about Chalmers' pasta water magic.
Okay, so first things first, we need to create an online presence for this meme. We could start by creating social media accounts or hashtags related to our meme.
Yes, that's a fantastic idea, Seymour. By doing that, we can encourage more people to participate in the meme and make it go viral.
And what about collaborating with popular meme creators? Maybe they could help us spread our meme even further?
I see your point, Seymour. By partnering up with these influential figures, we can tap into their fan base and get more people interested in Chalmers' pasta water magic.
You know what? I think the possibilities are endless. Here, our meme could take on a life of its own. Who knows where it might lead us?
Absolutely, Seymour. It's all about exploring new territories and pushing the boundaries.
And let's not forget our ultimate goal, to create the biggest meme in history. With Chalmers' leftover pasta water as our inspiration, I think we've got a real winner on our hands.
Oh boy, Seymour. Do you realize what we're about to do? Write memes that might one day be read by future generations?
That's right, Chalmers. Our meme has the potential to go down in history books.
Well said, Seymour. Now let's get started on creating this internet sensation that will leave its mark on Memafield and beyond. And beyond.
Oh yes, let's do it. But after this podcast episode...
Oh boy, Seymour! This has been an adventure unlike any other, exploring pop culture and philosophy through Chalmers' leftover pasta water.
That's right, Chalmers. Who would thought that our love for food, humor, and imaginative storytelling could lead us here?
Well said, Seymour. It just goes on to show how powerful a single idea can be, especially when it's fueled by creativity, passion, and a bit of pasta water magic.
Absolutely. And with our new meme project underway, who knows where this adventure will lead us next?
That's the beauty of it, Seymour. The possibilities are endless. But for now, let's enjoy this moment and savor the delicious flavor of of Chalmers pasta water magic. Thanks for tuning in again. We hope you enjoyed our little philosophical journey.
Have a nice evening, everyone, and make sure to tune in next time again.
Have a good one, everyone. Till next week, bye-bye.